Welcome to the Racing Roundtable with TwinSpires. I'm Ashley Anderson, joined by James Scully and Vance Hanson to discuss the happenings from this weekend, including the Belmont Oaks, Belmont Derby, and Delaware Handicap. You may recognize the TwinSpires Roundtable from our TwinSpires Edge site in written format, but we're taking this to the big screen, small screen, however you're watching this. So I hope you're ready, James and Vance, to discuss. And let's start with the Belmont Derby. We had Farbridge win by a length as the logical second choice in this race. He beat the Foxes, who went off as the 2-1 favorite. So which horse are you taking from the Belmont Derby here? Let's start with James.
Well, I think the Foxes is going to would be a popular answer because he got the worst of it trip wise. He broke slowly. He got checked going into the far turn, steadied and lost some momentum a little bit, and then he was all mired in traffic and had to slice and dice his way towards the rail before he came flying late. But I'm taking the Farbridge from the Belmont Derby, and the reason why is because I'm looking ahead towards the Breeders' Cup turf. I think Farbridge has more potential to get a mile and a half distance. Obviously, the Foxes, their connections talked about, they went to the Belmont Derby because the mile and a quarter was a better fit for him. And the other thing about Farbridge is that he just started his racing career in late January. I thought his first two races were good efforts. I mean, certainly encouraging, but I still don't think he was all there mentally when he ran second in American Turf and in the Pennine Ridge, raced a little bit in spots, had to be inside horses, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought he took a huge step forward from a mental standpoint. That was a big time improvement upon his last race, I thought. So I want him going forward. I think he has huge upside for Todd Pletcher. Farbridge does.
What are your thoughts, Vance?
Well, both horses are very pace-dependent types. Farbridge, of course, had bad trips in his previous two starts, both losses, both narrow losses. All things being equal, I do still think the Foxes is the better colt, having run against that top company in Europe. But as James alluded to, he didn't get off to a great start in the Belmont Derby, and that's kind of a common thing for European shippers. They just aren't used to braking alertly as American racehorses typically do. So if there is a rematch between these two horses in the Saratoga Derby next month, I'm guessing Farbridge would probably be the best choice because of the slow starting tendencies of the Foxes, plus the fact that the Saratoga Derby is a shorter race and on a tighter configuration. But overall, I think the Foxes is a better colt, but circumstances might give Farbridge the edge in the Saratoga Derby hypothetical rematch. How about you, Ashley? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going with Farbridge, and I think it's interesting, James, that now you're on Farbridge because I know last week when we were talking about this race, you had the Foxes singled in your horizontal wagers, and I actually was fading this horse mostly because it was his first U.S. start, and I saw on Thursday the connection said he wasn't handling the heat well. That slow start obviously really hampered him in this race, but he had a similar 102 late pace rating, which is exactly what Farbridge posted as well. But obviously, Farbridge had a little bit better start than the Foxes. So yeah, I'm going to stick with Farbridge. Only has two losses by a nose and a length, and I like his progression here. So I'm sticking with Farbridge as well. Well, let's move on to the Belmont Oaks, which had an upset with Aspen Grove. So what do you make of Aspen Grove from this race and her upset? Let's go with Vance here.
Uh, you know, I was kind of late to the news that Aspen Grove was in season when she ran so poorly in the Irish 1000 Guineas. And if I had caught that a little earlier, perhaps I would have given her a little more of a chance in this race. But, considering how low on the pecking order she is among 3-year-old fillies in Europe, and the fact that she came over and beat the very best 3-year-old turf fillies that we have to offer, it didn't make our fillies to be one of a very distinguished class of fillies so far. And so Aspen Grove, I hear, is going to stay here. She's going to run in either the Saratoga Oaks or Delmar Oaks. And of course, she'll stand a pretty good chance of winning either race. But I think this Belmont Oaks and the result of it kind of showed the flaws of the domestic contingent in that division. And so that's pretty much sums up what I have to think about the Belmont Oaks, plus the fact that it was a considerably a slower race than the Belmont Derby. What do you think, James?
Yeah, I like those latter points there. I think there's a huge difference between the 3-year-old turf males and 3-year-old turf fillies in the U.S. I think the turf males, that's a solid group, not only Farbridge, but Webslinger, Kalick redistricting, and others I think are nice horses with, going to go on and run good races in the future. 3-year-old fillies look suspect to me. I didn't like Aspen Grove at the 1.25 mile distance. I was a little doubtful about Justify siring a grade 1 winner at 10 furlongs, especially with her pedigree being out of like a more than ready mare that was strictly a miler, couldn't run past a mile really. So she outperformed my expectations. Her form in Europe, regardless of being in season last time, I didn't think was good. Her lone win was a 66-1 upset. The horse that ran second and hadn't won again, and the horse that ran third, I think, just broke its maiden. I mean, it was a really bad field, and she was 66-1 in it. So she really just that race sort of came out of nowhere. But I give her a lot of credit for running it, considering she didn't break well. And I think it's a feather in the cap for her sire, Justify, to get a grade 1 winner at a 1.25 mile. Ashley.
Yeah, I'm with you all. I wasn't necessarily going away thinking, from this race, I'm going to start backing Aspen Grove going forward. I think she's shown a lot of inconsistency, and her owner even said, when she runs a bad race, she's nowhere to be found. I think I want to see her string together a couple wins before I put much weight into this race. But let's move on to older females with Idiomatic, who won the Delaware Handicap. So do you think she can be a major player in the older female division going forward? What do you think, James?
Yes, I think she's on her way, Ashley. Idiomatic, filly that ran twice last year in the spring, got the rest of the season off, came back in December at Turfway on the Tapeta. And after a start back, she really started getting good, reeled off 4 straight wins. Her Ruffian was her first dirt start on Derby Day at Belmont Park. And while she ran a non-threatening second there, that was just that was an experience I think she greatly needed coming off those synthetic races, and she moved forward off of it in her last 2 races in the Shawnee and the Delaware Handicap. And really, I mean, she may not have been beating the best horses, but the versatility she showed just I thought was outstanding, leading all the way in the Shawnee and then overcoming a terrible start. She was away last and rallying to win the Del Cap. She'll have to keep improving to compete against the likes of Clairiere and perhaps others, but she's definitely progressing, and I think she could develop in a top-class mare for Brad Cox. Vance?
Yeah, based on her speed figures and the Shawnee and the Delaware Handicap, you have to put Idiomatic among the fastest in this division. But the fact is that she was all out at Delaware on Saturday to beat Classy Edition, and Classy Edition certainly not as of yet is one of the top older mares in the country. I mean, that distinction goes to Clairiere, and of course last year's 3-year-old filly Champion Nest is going to be returning to action soon as well. So Idiomatic is going to have to really step up her game if and when she faces those types of older female competitors in her next start. So, yes, she has the potential. She's got the speed. She's fast enough, but whether she can actually do it when she faces that top quality competition, I'm still a bit suspect until I see it. What do you say, Ashley?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't say that she's shown me any reason to doubt her so far with the increasing brisnet speed figures in each start in her current season. And, aside from there's a loss by over 5 lengths to pass the Champagne, but she rebounded in her last 2 and had a career high 103 brisnet speed rating in this last race and a career best 102 late pace rating. So I like her progression, but again, yes, with Nest Clairiere, I think she has a lot of room to make up to prove that she can compete against those fillies as well. So, well, that's all we have today for our roundtable. We'll be back next week for our second edition on camera. And you can also check us on the TwinSpires jury this week, which we'll be taking from written format to on camera as well. So we look forward to having you with us later this week as well. See you then.